business. And a lot of what we've talked about is kind of the technological case for AI and how it will improve business, productivity, these sorts of things. But certainly there's a role for the consultants in how to apply AI to one's business. And our sponsor this year, Launch, is really a pioneer in that field. And so I'm pleased to introduce Russ Whitman. He's the Chief Strategy Officer of Launch, and he's going to run this last session. We'll close at 5 p.m. So Russ, join me on stage.
It is really bright up here. Good afternoon. Thank you for sticking around for us. It's been a long day. My name's Russ Whitman, as Steve mentioned. We're really excited to come here, and yet I think this has exceeded our expectations in terms of the conversations that we've been able to have, both the ones on stage and the ones in the field. But before I start, I got to find, where's George? George, where are you? Did you leave me, George? George left me. He's around somewhere. So,
Russ, this is the lesson number 1 in managing George Gilder. So I'm going to go find him. This is what I do.
All right. So this was not part of the bit, but there is a bit. So we'll come back to that in just a second once we get George, because I think it'll be fun. It's so much fun for me that it didn't work out right away. So real quick, Launch Consulting is an organization that's been around for a couple of decades, and it primarily helps customers figure out what to do with technology. So our job is to help them make sense of it, how to apply it, how to do the things that it needs to do to solve their business challenges and engage their customers in the markets and grow. A lot of times I think of us as sort of the plumbers of the digital age. We don't make the technology. There's been some amazing folks up on stage that make it, some in this room that are actually out there leading the forefronts, talking about quadrillions of connections. We have the opportunity and the responsibility. And so we have that unique responsibility and that challenge that we get called upon every day. With AI, it's no different. Fundamentally, we get out there and we've been moving the needle and having these conversations. And the same challenges that we've been struggling with in this room, we're dealing with every single day. What do I do with it? What does it mean? Why should I do something with it? What's going to happen to my organization and my workforce? So those are the things that we spend a lot of time working on. But we fell in this land of AI not because it was new to us. We've been applying AI like many people have been talking about, not as long as Kurzweil for sure. But we've been applying AI, machine learning, NLP and other things, general AI, to a lot of interesting problems. But with generative AI, we sort of believed that there was something different happening. There was a different movement afoot. And I think we all feel it because 11 months later, here we all are talking about this and of course, learning about graphene. The quintessential component is that we needed to sort of move at a pace and a speed that we believed that we'd never had to move at before. And I think we also feel that. You know, that toddler, I forget who mentioned it, but it's 11 months old and it's just getting to learn how to walk. That toddler's really fast, right? This technology has really taken us all by storm, and it's completely destroyed IT support up on stage. But one of the things that we did early on is we recognized we needed to add some unique and interesting talent. So today, I'm really excited to introduce you to Kevin McCall, who leads our AI program inside of Launch. Moving 1,000 people into the stage of thinking about AI first is a significant challenge. And since we're on the front lines applying it every day, our strategy today is to make sure that you guys get a chance to see what that's about. And with that, I'm going to hand it across to Kevin.
So first of all, I do want to say, it feels really indulgent to attend this event for 3 days and actually listen to people speak so thoroughly and thoughtfully about how technology is going to impact all of us in the future. I do realize that part of the reason it feels so indulgent is because I struggle so hard every day just to keep track of how it's affecting our present. But I digress. But before I get started on talking a little bit about our AI program and what we've learned from it, I actually want to learn a little bit more about you and the audience. So just quick show of hands. How many of you are directly employed in the IT space, a software company or a hardware company? Okay, actually a small percentage. Okay, so for the rest of you, employed by non-IT industries, healthcare, government, retail, manufacturing, consumer, fair? Okay. All right, how many of you manage people? Okay, about half directly. Okay, great. How many of you specifically have degrees in one of the kind of core disciplines of AI, computer science, mathematics, something directly related to machine learning? Okay, great. Are any of you researchers? Okay, subset of researchers. Okay, great. All right, last question. How many of you have actually written Python code in the last few weeks or months, even if just to dink around with something? Okay, about 10. Okay, great. That helps me understand. So before I joined Launch, I was with Microsoft almost 26 years. The last 10 years was focused on working with customers on AI. Now, 5 years of that-ish was working with different companies in different industries in different countries around the world, solving different kinds of problems. So that represented a real scatter plot of targets. The last 5 years, I focused on AI for autonomous systems. And so my team would build autonomous agents, and we would put those on robots or drones or autonomously control equipment like extruders, and other industrial equipment like that. Now, when I joined Launch, as Russ mentioned, we already had a data science and AI team. And that team, of course, was quite busy. They had done a number of AI projects for a number of years, but it was contained within one of our 7, what we call services studios. So I was brought in to create a company-wide program, a comprehensive funded program, a program that really represented an all-in, burn the ships type of approach to AI. It's what we refer to, and the laptop is now gone. It's what we refer to as our pivot to being an AI-first consultancy, right? So that's why I came in, and I kicked off the creation of that overall program that went all the way up to our executives in its commitment. So where I'm going to start is I'm going to talk a little bit about the program we built and the 5 work streams in that overall program. I'm then going to talk about things that didn't go as planned. I have a top 10, 15, maybe even top 20 list of things that did not go as planned. In the interest of time, I'll probably only cover 5 or 6 here today, but I'll talk about some things that happened that we did not expect and the course corrections we had to make, based on where things didn't materialize as we expected originally. So let me first start with our overall AI program. So when we created the program, it had 5 pillars, 5 work streams. And all 5 of those had very long descriptive names, very impressive, I promise you. They used to have very long descriptive names that quickly got shortened so that people were very clear on the delineation between the work streams. Most of these are painfully self-explanatory, but let me just give you a sentence or 2 on each. Learn AI was really representing a company-wide commitment for everyone to establish a base level of fluency and competency on AI. 100% of the employees in our organization. So from individual contributors all the way up to our president, Brian. Use AI was about applying it internally. So it was all the tooling and the training and the readiness to apply tools internally to, of course, put points on the board for our own company, but just as importantly, to build skills and experiences that we could take to our customers. Build AI was really about reusable assets. So Build AI was about how do we create repeatable services offerings and all the templates that go with that. How do we create repeatable accelerators, so IP we could bring to projects to perform them more quickly, less expensively for our customers. And then eventually products with a capital P, things that we could license and sell, of course, right? So Build AI was really all about those repeatable, reusable assets. Partner in AI, again, self-explanatory, but this was really about weaving AI into all of our existing partnerships, right? Building that into the GTM motions we had going with them. The last, Sell AI, was partially about materials, of course, in helping people really think about how to consultatively work with customers, specifically in their industry areas of expertise. So we have a concept of sectors, right, where we go deep in specific industries, and so it also represented an investment in industry-specific scenarios. So we really understood where and how AI could and should be applied to solve problems in this space. So those are the 5. So It's funny, we created the program. Every single one of these had its own team and had a work stream leader. We had executive sponsorship. We had an executive steering committee. We, of course, layered on the appropriate layers of governance, all the things you'd learn in B school. So what could go wrong, right? I mean, everything felt really buttoned up and we pushed off from the shore. So just to go through some of the things that did not go as planned. The first is, being a pretty agile digital consultancy, we expected people would just kind of jump on the bus, right? We expected everyone to be inspired, excited, right, and really lean into the transition when we announced, hey, we're going AI first. And people were actually far more reluctant, far more hesitant than we expected. And there were lots of reasons for that. Our original thesis was that this is kind of like digital transformation, only times pi, maybe, not an order of magnitude more complex or confusing. So we expected people to generally lean right into that transition. But a lot of people were very hesitant. That was number one. The second one was that when we started rolling out tools, we expected people to really naturally apply those tools to profoundly change the way they were doing whatever they did, right? We expected more profound change to processes. And interestingly, when we did our first wave of data collection, we expected 20, 40, 60% uplift in some of our internal processes, and that's not what we were getting. We were getting single-digit uplift. We were getting 2, 4, 6% uplift. And part of that was because people were applying some of these new tools in old ways. They were applying new tools to old processes, but the processes weren't naturally changing that much. So that was one thing that happened. The third, and this was baffling to me, I'd be very interested to hear from you on this offline, but we expected there would be tons of readily available, preferably free, learning online so that people could take classes starting at appropriate level 50, level 80, level 100, and content that would then build upon those core concepts all the way through 200, 300, and 400 level content. For mostly obvious reasons. I thought that would be very, very easy to find, and it just wasn't. I was saddened and surprised by either the level of quality or the lack of really a comprehensive curriculum that truly starts at the beginning. I'm very aware with lots of more advanced content, right, programmers' content, that was very good, that I was much more aware of, but nothing that really started at the beginning and built upon it. Another thing that we ran into is that we expected, with all of the obvious excitement around ChatGPT and really how the world's changed a lot in just the last year, we expected many more of our customers to have made larger commitments, more organized, funded commitments to AI, to have teams that were more organized. We would have also expected not just our customers, but frankly some of our peers in the marketplace to really have made those commitments and have a more predictable kind of execution plan. But I can tell you from experience, in the last probably 5 years I spent at Microsoft, I think I had 600 meetings with about 200 unique companies. And it was actually surprising that a minority of the companies I talked to had really done something real, something that was beyond a toy, something that was really related to their core competency, right? Something that really mattered for their business. And so even with all the excitement and the activity in the last year, I still see those companies in the minority, the ones that really have turned the corner and are making big commitments, right? So in short, we are still seeing, when we talk to our customers, a lot of companies that just aren't quite sure where to start, right? And coincidentally, when it comes to considering some of our peers in the marketplace, I would have also expected some of those companies to make larger commitments directly to AI to, if nothing else, capitalize on the market opportunity, of course. Everybody's pretty excited about it right now, right? So that was also a surprise. Lastly, and this one also surprised me, I'm used to a world where obviously policy is critical, and we've been doing policy for a long time in the IT space. I've always felt like it's kind of axiomatic that you create effective IT policy to prevent problems. You create good policy to prevent the messes, right? You want to make sure that the kids don't, make a mess all over the place. And what we found is that, so we already knew we expected, right? I mean, of course, that policy, the AI-specific policy, was going to be urgent. But what we didn't expect is that a lot of our employees didn't want to try some of these tools and certainly didn't want to evaluate these tools in the context of a customer project until they saw our policy, which was surprising. A lot of our employees were so conscientious about using these tools with customer data and on customer projects that they weren't comfortable working with some of these tools until I gave them a policy and until I was really clear, until we were very clear regarding exactly how to deal with lots of different eventualities, right? So urgency, obviously still there, but for different reasons, right? Reasons that I absolutely did not expect. So let me just talk about a number of course corrections that we had to make based on these. And again, I would selfishly love to talk with you offline to compare notes, to know if some of these experiences are consistent or inconsistent with what you've seen. But first of all, had to make a big decision on training. Since we couldn't find what we wanted, we made a huge decision to build all of our own training curriculum from scratch, right? Thankfully, we have a fantastic creative team. Some of them are here today, right? So we had the talent to do it, but huge ask, right? We had to double the budgetary ask for that work stream specifically, just to start from the ground up on the training curriculum. So that was a big difference. Number two, for some of the reasons I outlined, we had to think beyond education and really add an evangelism element to what we were doing. We thought that would be easier. It wasn't coming as naturally as we expected. So we really added in an evangelism angle. And we also built what we call a change champions network, right? We had to build more of a more substantive community in order to not just help us evangelize to their peers and the overall organization, but we also needed listening posts for getting feedback, right? So we created a Change Champions network and implemented more active sessions, not just with them, but with everyone around what we call Launch and Learns, right? Our version of Lunch and Learns, right? Now, both of those fell on our Learn AI workstream, right? Unambiguously. Now, the third thing is that we, of course, as I mentioned, created our own AI-specific policy, rolled that out, and the Learn AI workstream also created a training module for that. So to date, we've shipped 5 training classes already to our internal employees, and we have almost 100% completion on that. There's a percent or two that's always errant because of people coming in and out of the organization, but we have almost 100% uptake on that. So all 3 of those were handled by the Learn AI workstream. Now, beyond the Learn AI workstream, we also realized, because of the very dramatic diversity of where our customers are on their journey, we had to double down on the specificity of the materials that we were giving our sellers, right? We had to dramatically increase the number of cycles we were spending on the discovery and assessment with our customers to really be clear on where they were on their journey and where they were with regard to maturity, to really get started with AI themselves. And so you might say we had to front load a lot of cycles to make sure we were hitting the mark for our customers, and that primarily fell on the Sell AI workstream, though it also had implications on our Partner on AI workstream, because a lot of the materials we were creating were technology specific, with, of course, our key go-to-market partners, right? So those are some examples, not an exhaustive list, of course, but those are some examples of course corrections we did with those 3 work streams. Now, what is conspicuously absent from that list are the Use AI and the Build AI work streams. So interestingly, while we were doing all of those course corrections, the Use AI and Build AI work streams were chugging along, right? And we actually had almost no surprises in that work stream, which was interesting. And so I'll just tell you about 3 quick examples of things we did on those work streams, and then I will hand it back to Russ. So number 1, unsurprisingly, we did some internal projects around doing some large and some small custom language models in order to harvest our internal corpus of knowledge and our entire history of working with customers. And so we did the usual, comparing different parameter sizes of open source models that we just got right off of, various model repositories, Hugging Face, et cetera. We also started experimenting with different things like context windows, and we did that not just for our internal projects, but we did that also in the context of some customer projects we had upcoming. Number two, getting a little bit more involved, we actually created an automated system that would facilitate and accelerate creation or starting customer projects. So let me give you an example. Let's say a customer walks in our door tomorrow and they say, hey, I've got 4 dozen taco trucks and I want to create a web app that I encourage my customers to download. Then we created a collaborative agent-based system based on, of course, generative AI that would allow you to say, okay, I want to write epics and user stories for a customer that has 3 dozen taco trucks across 3 counties in Texas and Louisiana. And then there was an agent playing the persona of the writer of those epics and user stories that would start to draft all those requirements. Now, we added in other personas to that system. So, for example, a dev manager that would spec out the dev requirements, a testing manager. But we didn't stop there. What we realized is when you have a writer, and then you have a dev manager, and then you have a tester, and you have the other personas collaborating, they need their own adult supervision. And so we added additional personas into this collaborative agent-based system for a security engineer and a compliance manager. And so these are bots. These are agents that are watching the whole collaborative process and intervening when appropriate, where they say, hold on, stop, that's against policy. Right? We can't start selling beer out of the taco trucks in that county in Louisiana, right? It's against the law, or you need a membership card or something. And the security engineer would do the same. So that was interesting. The third example was we created our first accelerator that we referred to as our Launch Intelligent Text Extraction offering. And what this does is that it allows you to slurp up a corpus of text from either repositories or using OCR off of PDF files. And then it allows you to layer upon it a number of queries so that you can pull all the information out of those documents that you would like. Let me give you an example. We did this first with a healthcare company that had grown through acquisition, and so they had thousands and thousands and thousands of contracts that were in subtly different formats, different language, different default clauses, things like that. And their operational systems didn't always match up with the contracts they had signed. And so we consumed all of these contracts and basically pulled all the information out of them, obviously unstructured documents, and put them all into a database so that we could conveniently and easily compare it to the operational system. And that way they could dramatically reduce their risk and start fixing those errors. So it also applies. I was talking with a gentleman this morning. It could work in a bank that's grown through acquisition, where you have tons and tons of loans that you've issued, and because you've grown through acquisition, some of those loan documents might be in subtly different formats and have different clauses and contents, right? So we built that third one. So, in summary, certainly not everything has gone as planned. We've done a number of course corrections in some of those areas. One of the most interesting takeaways for me was that the tools and the technology actually haven't been an obstacle so far, right? They haven't been obstacles to date. More of the issues have been on the non-tech side of the wall, you might say. So I would welcome conversations with you offline to either, I'm happy to share more, stories of other things that didn't go perfectly for us, but I would also, as I mentioned, love to compare notes with you on what you found. So, thanks for your time.
I realize oh, sorry, please, applause. We have just a few minutes remaining. I realize I've gained a reputation as like the Grim Reaper when I show up here. But anyway, we have just 2 or 3 minutes.
Did you find George for me?
Oh, thank you for asking. No, this is a window into my life. So if you look, there are about 50 gray hairs, and those are from each time I tried to figure out where George is, and I discovered he went out for a run. So he's out for a run. If you need George in the future, coordinate with me in advance.
I will. I'll learn from that. I will take questions, obviously. I think the thing that I really want to make sure that we're trying to connect some dots to is that ultimately, as you said, Kevin, the challenge has largely been people. And that shouldn't surprise us, because look at all the questions that we've been asking ourselves, and many of us have been thinking about this for a long time. Getting people to the place they need to be is transformative is always a big issue. none bigger. I think AI is the single largest change management challenge of our lifetimes. It's not just a big technology challenge, it's a human challenge. Secondly is pace. We began this journey just a few months ago, and yet it's hard to not feel at every moment that we're not going fast enough, because everything is moving so quickly. And you get this FOMO, and not just the fear of missing out, but also the fear of making the wrong decision. And it's paralyzing at sometimes when you know you're supposed to be running at full speed on that treadmill. Don't you think?
Yeah, one thing, I guess I never mentioned this, which is relevant. All of the things that I mentioned, creating the work streams and the overall program, getting started, pushing off from the shore, doing all this work, creating our first 5 training classes, et cetera, we've done all that since July 1st. I didn't even join the company until middle of June. I left Microsoft in May and joined launch in June. So we've gotten all that done since July 1st. Yeah. So it's been quite a breakneck speed.
And yet, we feel like we need to do more and do it faster.
We always need to do more, yes.
And last, I'll just say that the final is perspective. One of the reasons why this type of a moment these days is so special is it's the connection to the vision, to building the road towards the vision, which is really the role and the lot that we play every day. And so being able to connect those dots has been really special. And so thank you for having us and be a part of this.
Oh, absolutely. And there is one question, and so we'll take a question and we'll close out.
Oh, now you can hear me. Lisa Girdley, just a quick question following up on AI policy. I think the way that you phrased it was something along the lines of to empower your staff to use the tools. You needed to first put a policy in place, right? Before then, people weren't as willing, but once there was a policy, they were. Could you tell us a little bit, like high level, what goes into that policy? What types of things you included? For those of us that may be at companies without one, but that may need one?
Sure. I mean, I know we're standing between you and drinks and food. So let me give you a super short answer, is that I can actually just give you our policy. We have permission to share our policy because there's no company confidential or proprietary information in it. And so it's 4 pages. One has to do with kind of first page, definitions. Second page, big picture stuff. Pages 3 and 4 are about specific tools and most of the things you would expect in a policy, things like personally identifiable information, company sensitive, customer sensitive, et cetera. But it also provides, importantly, links to where we encourage people to check on a regular basis regarding various approved use cases, intended use cases, unintended use cases, a link to the training, things like that. But it's a pretty concise, pretty tight 4 pages with a 9-minute training class that's required that goes along with it.
Awesome, thank you.
It's been great to work with Russ and his team, and I mentioned again, they're a new sponsor this year. Again, we're gonna get that prop bit. We're gonna get that next time with George. Just give me fair warning. Next year, we're gonna make it happen. Let's hear it for the gentleman from Launch. Oh, thank you.